Hello and welcome to Hope for Dystonia. My name is Federico and you can call me Fede. I am the creator of Hope for Dystonia, which is now the single most comprehensive, empowering, and transformative dystonia program out there. I created Hope for Dystonia because I needed to get my life back and I wasn't getting much help out there. I had a hard time speaking, chewing, and walking, and I got my life back thanks to the method that I developed. And I have been sharing this method as of today. We're in 2024 for 5 years with clients. And if you too are on a journey of healing and you too want to take that journey into your own hands, I highly recommend that you check out the link in the description below. It will lead you to the video on the 8 steps of the Hope for Dystonia recovery roadmap. Invaluable information that I wish somebody had shared with me when I was in the thick of it. So we have a really exciting video today, dystonia and spirituality. Now, this is a topic that is really near and dear to my heart. Spirituality is a big part of my life and big part of the reason I do what I do. And I recognize that this video might not be for everybody. So if you're open to considering a different framing of what's going on here, I think you'll enjoy this video. If you want, you can check out other videos that I have on the channel and other articles that I have on hopefordystonia.com that frame things in more Western terms, talking about cranial nerves and talking about the temporomandibular joint and trauma, attachment wounding, and all of these things. So everything that I say in this video on spirituality can be framed in other terms. I think that when we allow ourselves to talk about spirituality and look inwards in this way, try to connect to something bigger, we gain an understanding that has a little something extra that can be really transformative and can really help us in our growth more broadly beyond just the journey of healing from dystonia. And so I'd like to say a couple of words on what I mean by spirituality. I'd like to give you a new framing of dystonia as it relates to spirituality. And then I'd like to show you 3 ways in which dystonia and spirituality connect, because each one of these 3 is an opportunity for us to really use dystonia as a stepping stone in our spiritual, personal, and psychological evolution. So, what is spirituality? Well, what I mean here by spirituality is, first of all, the kind of experience that we can have looking inward, as opposed to what our Western materialistic culture encourages us to do, which is to be focused on what happened out there, right? So a spiritual experience is something that happens when we look inwards at our inner landscape. It is also an experience of connection to something greater, right? As we advance on our spiritual journey, we notice that this small self from which we act, the one that is constantly chasing this thing and pushing this other thing away, that is constantly worried and jumping around from thought to thought with our monkey mind, we realize that that is not the truth of who we really are. And then we open to the possibility and the truth that we are part of something larger. And so spirituality is about recognizing our belonging to something larger, right? And different spiritual traditions point to this in different ways. So how do dystonia and spirituality connect? Well, number 1, let's reframe dystonia in a bit of an innovative way, if you will. And what I would like to offer to you is that dystonia is a spiritual disorder. Okay, why is it a spiritual disorder? Because it is about how our inner landscape is organized and how the flow of energy in our bodies is organized as a result of that. Okay? So dystonia is related to spirituality in three main ways. First of all, it is about the flow of energy within. In some traditions, this would be described as a Kundalini disorder, right? So Kundalini is this life force that lives within us that tries to flow through our bodies, through our psyche, in order to help us evolve and awaken. And when we experience blockages in our bodies, then this energy flows in ways that are irregular. And we can experience all kinds of trouble. In my experience, I've been lucky enough to work with several individuals that explicitly framed their dystonia as a Kundalini crisis, that were able to see how their journeys of spiritual evolution, the injuries that they might have gone through in their bodies, the symptoms that they experienced with spasms and involuntary movements and so on, were all really connected and were all an expression of a disorder in the flow of energy within. And so this flow of energy within our bodies is something that we can connect to, that we can understand, and that we can regulate by looking within. Okay? And so dystonia, in a way, is really pointing our attention inwards. Okay. So that is the first way in which dystonia and spirituality really connect, how they're one and the same, really. Dystonia is there to point us to our hearts and our inner experiences. Okay, the second way that dystonia and spirituality connect is that dystonia is very often a form of dysregulation that we adopt in order to meet certain fundamental psychospiritual needs. Okay? So for a lot of people with dystonia, the patterns of dysregulation that we're in have to do with meeting our fundamental need for self-esteem. Okay? Self-esteem is the psychological term for this. Different spiritual traditions explain our fundamental good nature in different terms, right? So they'll speak of divine nature or Buddha nature or our divine belonging, the fact that we're created in God's image. They're all pointing to the same thing, right? That when we look deep enough, all we see is the light of our hearts that are looking to love and be loved. And that good heart, its fundamental goodness, is something that never gets taken away. And yet, we lose sight of this so easily. And when we don't have sufficient experiences with our primary caretakers growing up, with our environment, with our spiritual practice and so on, that allow us to really see that this is who we are, right? That we are fundamentally good. We stress ourselves out trying to prove that we are good enough. And so we might get dystonia when we try to play the instrument that we've spent so many hours training on, trying to prove that we can do it, that we'll succeed, that we're good enough, and trying to get approval. Or we'll get generalized dystonia or cervical dystonia or what have you, whatever form of dysregulation, because we live our lives in a constant state of disconnection from ourselves. And so if I give you an example of how things used to be for me, I used to really walk around with a sense of fundamental badness, right? That I fundamentally, secretly suck, right? And so whatever I'm doing out there, I'm really just faking it. And so I was walking around with so much tension, right? Because I couldn't recognize that fundamental goodness within me. And I didn't receive what I needed growing up in order to develop that type of connection. I didn't develop that proper sense of self-esteem. Spoiler alert, this is something that even as adults, we can develop and we can work on. And so with mindfulness, with self-compassion, with all kinds of different practices that allow us to have experiences of being seen and mirrored and understood as being fundamentally good, we can learn that this is the truth of who we are, and we can allow our nervous systems to really regulate in a way that perhaps didn't even seem possible before. So that's the second way that dystonia and spirituality connect. Disconnection from our fundamental good nature. The third way that dystonia and spirituality connect is that often dystonia is something that comes along when we are extremely disconnected from God. What I mean by God is the loving nature of the reality that we are part of. We perceive ourselves as being separate. There's the world out there, and then there's me. And there is this fear of survival. There is this fear of, as we said earlier, am I good enough? There is this fear of needing to control the circumstances in our lives. There is this inability to relax and trust. Again, these are all things that we can explain in psychological terms. But if we take a spiritual perspective here, then this is all about recognizing our divine belonging, that we are not, in fact, these separate beings that are in a constant war against reality. We are part of this loving reality, and we, in fact, can allow ourselves to be held, to be soothed, to be welcomed, to be loved by the love that is always here, right? And so reconnecting with the truth of who we are is really the ultimate fundamental healing, right? And so one way that I like to phrase this in my work as a meditation teacher, which, also often ends up showing up in my work with clients who are dealing with dystonia, is that the love we see is the essence of who we are, right? It's not something that is out there. It's not something that we have to work hard to grasp or to manufacture. If we just allow ourselves to surrender enough, if we allow ourselves to trust enough, we can connect to the truth of who we really are. And that is a beautiful part of this fundamentally loving reality. And that goes for the peace that we seek and the healing that we seek. Those are right here if we allow ourselves to trust and see things as they really are. And so you can see how the process of healing from dystonia can be, if we choose, right? It can be a process of awakening, of spiritual, personal, psychological growth. And if we choose to see things this way, we can realize that the process of healing from dystonia is really here for us, not against us. So, reconnection with God, recognition of our true nature, understanding of the patterns of flow of energy in our mind, body, heart. These are all the ways in which dystonia can help us reconnect with spirituality and grow in that sense. So I hope that this video inspires you to perhaps reframe your journey and reframe what you're dealing with, and asking yourself, in what ways does my journey help me to grow and to reconnect with a sense of trust and peace and love that is independent of the circumstances that I'm going through. So I also hope that this video gives you a sense of empowerment, letting you know that whatever patterns you are stuck in, seemingly, are actually workable and they can change and you can get better. Progress is available to you. So thank you for listening. I appreciate you. And I once again invite you to check out the link in the description below to see how all of this can be part of a holistic process of healing. The 8 steps of the Hope for Dystonia Recovery Roadmap. Invaluable information linked below. I hope to see you there. In the meantime, please like and subscribe if you want to see more of this content. And much love to you. See you soon.